Hey guys, welcome to Herding Little Cows. So today's video is about Mark.
It's about me. Everything else,
And
it's about everybody, but this one's going to be about me, I guess.
And we turned the video on and Mark said, okay, so you need to do all the talking. So it's going to sound like I'm talking poorly about my husband maybe sometimes, but that's not what it is. We just wanted to give a update on his health and how it affects our everyday life. So,
Yeah.
You go.
It's hard to explain what it is that I want to accomplish with a video like this. Mostly because it's really hard for me to gather my thoughts. It's been, Sarah and I we started dating 20 years ago as of August 13th. So we've been together a long, long time.
I've been together with him longer than I've been not together with him.
Right. So it was, 2 months after we met that we were helping our friends move, and I was carrying a desk up a set of stairs, I think with someone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he was up above and I was down below, I think. Not sure. And I felt and heard a pop in the back of my neck. And I had had multiple head injuries, back injuries. I've been hit by a tree twice in my lifetime. Never really been in a car accident, but I've been in tree accidents. So I've had a lot of injuries that could contribute to different problems, physiologically, neurologically, and then this has been going on for basically the entire time we've been together. So for us, life has never really been normal in the way most people think of the word normal. But it hasn't always been as bad as it is either. There were years when I worked doing carpentry. There was years when I worked doing all kinds of different hard physical labor. There's years when we traveled across the country in ministry and I was able to drive and do all sorts of things. But even in the midst of those years, there were periods of time, sometimes months, sometimes longer. The diagnosis has always been some sort of seizure, some sort of injury-related thing. The latest discussion is of dystonia, which dystonia is a group of symptoms, but it doesn't tell you what's wrong, what's causing the problem. So I think so we've been seeing doctors for almost 20 years now. And
after 20 years of seeing doctors, it gets very frustrating. Just because...
Especially lately.
Yeah.
So lately we're repeating tests that we did 15 years ago and 10 years ago and 3 years ago. And this week, actually, I think as of Sunday, I will have been out of work for 3 years this round. But I had been out of work for 3 or 4 years and then worked for multiple years. And I had been working and then out of work for 3 or 4 months. And then back to work for a few more months and then out of work. And it's just been very difficult to figure out what's going forward. And we're so busy trying to get me better so I can go back to work that we don't, I don't know. I can't even think of where I'm going. This is how my life goes. This is how my brain goes. So lately, I've recently been diagnosed with Paroxysmal Kinesogenic Dystonia. That's not like saying, hey, you have bladder cancer or an impingement on a vertebrae and you need a new disc put in your spine. It's not anything like that. This is a group of symptoms that could be caused by any of hundreds of different things in the world and could be caused by any single one of 25 injuries, or the conglomeration, the cumulative effect of all of those injuries could be causing that. So today I'm on another new medicine. I've been on so many medicines off and on for years, none of them lasting for more than a few months usually. Try it for a couple of months, it doesn't help or makes my symptoms worse or gives me dangerous side effects, issues with dizziness and balance and seizures and stuff. I have those every day anyway. I don't need them to be any worse. So we're trying this. The latest thing we're on is Tegretol or carbamazepine. It's the same medication they give Josiah for his seizures, but they're not giving it to me for seizures. So even though I'm 6'4" and 300 pounds, and Josiah is 8 years old and 70 pounds?
55.
55 pounds at 8 years old. I'm actually on a much smaller dose than he is. I'm on 100 milligrams a day right now, and they're going to bump me up to 200 milligrams a day. Josiah started at 400 and is now at 600. So just a sense of even the same medication may be used in different ways, in different dosages, and then has different side effects.
So it's used for people with seizures, but it's also used for this other thing that Mark has because it's an anticonvulsant, and they're looking for it to stop the muscle twitches, the spasms. Does he need me? The baby needs me. He's coming out.
Okay. Make sure you close the door because that fan is really loud even with it cracked. Hey, baby. So even though the symptoms have come and gone over the years, Virginia has never known a day when has never known a time in her life when Daddy wasn't sick. We have 8 children and 7 of them have never known Daddy except for when he was sick. Uriah, I went out of work before he was born, and Malachi as well. So now we have 2 children that have never seen Daddy get up, get in a car, and go to work. That's never happened for them in their lifetime, and that's not normal. That's not typical. So we have to deal with the social aspect of it. But we wanted to explain kind of what's going on, how it affects us, decision making, scheduling our day, trying to figure out what on earth I'm supposed to be doing. Even if you just told me 2 minutes ago, I may forget. So this forgetfulness, I don't even know what I'm trying to say now.
So part of the social aspect thing he was talking about is trying to teach our children what an average household looks like. Because our sons are going to need to understand that they're going to need to work to provide for their families. And we have lots of friends whose dads go off to work every day, but especially now with coronavirus going on, we don't see this. Like, we don't get together with friends. Before that, we would get together with friends and they would notice, like, oh, their dad's not with them. You know, he must be at work. But then also teaching our daughters that even if they're going to be stay-at-home moms, they're going to be doing it without another adult in the household all the time.
Right. And
which
so
is different in
I'm an adult depending on the time of day that's going on. If I want to go for a walk in the morning, I'm not an adult because I need someone to walk with me to make sure I'm safe. I don't cross the street by myself generally a whole lot. We live on a little quiet, like there's only 3 houses past us on a dead-end road in the middle of nowhere. So that's not usually an issue, but I do find myself having to be cautious. So I always take one of the older, whether Sarah or Virginia or Naomi, with me to make sure, not just that I just get where I'm going, but they also know my symptoms. And the more I do, the worse I get. And I tend to want to push myself further because I feel like I'm not doing enough and I want to do more. So if we do that 3rd lap or the 4th lap or whatever it is on our walk, 3 laps is about a mile. So if we go on this little quiet dead-end road, I need someone to say, you're not looking good, we probably ought to go home. Because I'll try to push through. And the more I push through, the less I'm able to... think about like, hey, if you have 1 beer or 1 glass of wine, your ability to think about, hey, when should I stop? That's kind of how it is. With dystonias, certain types of it, the more you do, the worse you get. So you want to remain active, but not push yourself. When you're not feeling well, you need to stop. Because it causes more muscle spasms, more pain, more confusion. For me, more seizures or whatever it is they're calling these this week. When I can't talk, even the movement disorder specialist that we saw last week, in looking at some of the videos that we've shared here on our channel to try to get the word out about what this is, even him as a specialist was like, I have no idea what causes that. We don't really know what to do with it. It's maybe we can avoid it. So in the stage of injury and degeneration that I've had for all these years, we're now at a stage where the only thing we're really looking at is symptom management. We're looking to see, can we reduce the pain? Can we reduce the spasms? Can we reduce the stimulus so that there isn't an overload of the brain? We're seeing an audiologist in a couple weeks to see if there's some way they can tune down my hearing, because sometimes I get such hypersensitive hearing that the most minor thing can set me into a spell where I can't move for 20 minutes, half an hour, even after that thing has stopped making the noise.
Yeah.
The startle reflex, he said specifically the other day, we asked about it, is there anything we can do for that? Is there a medication that would kind of tone that down? He said it's one of the hardest things to control or to understand is how your brain senses and perceives stimulus, like someone dropping a cup or dropping a hairbrush or something.
And it's even Mark dropping those things.
Yeah, even if I knock something off myself and see it, I can fall down or lose all abilities from something that I did myself, let alone other people doing it. And then there's, back to the social aspect, there's how that affects a family that knows that dropping a hairbrush on the floor might be catastrophic for daddy. And that puts people on pins and needles. So we put in super awesome carpeting on one end of the house. So our bedroom and the boys' bedroom is kind of a safe place where if I'm feeling overloaded, I can go there and it won't be so much auditory input. But that means that I'm gone. I'm not at work being productive. I'm just not available.
But to the point that we also have to keep the house quieter. So It'd be easier if he was at work, because I wouldn't have to keep the kids at a dull roar all the time. Like,
right. The kids
not that I
just
let the kids be loud,
yeah.
but you know.
But letting the kids be kids has to happen in a way that it's safe. So sometimes letting kids be kids means daddy has to go in his room and close the door and go lay down for a while, just so the kids can be normal. The kids do play when I'm around. It's not that. But like, you know, the loudness of certain 2-year-olds that are maybe overtired, or the grouping of 6 or 7 kids when we're all singing. And sometimes we sing together and I'm fine. And sometimes one person singing will, you know, so that's the paroxysmal part of this dystonia aspect of it. It means intermittent. It doesn't happen all the time. This is not a 24-hour-a-day thing. This is when it happens, and it may be early in the morning, and it may be all day long, and it may be not much at all during the day. It's almost always afternoon, evening is the worst, which again hits the social aspect of it. Socially, most families are doing school during the day, dad's working during the day, so families getting together oftentimes happens in the afternoon and evening. That is the worst time of day for my symptoms, because it's like you wake up in the morning and you're fresh and your brain's reset and you've got all the rest you need, and as the day progresses, you know, you've got more and more stress, more and more noise, more and more stimulus, and as stimulus goes up, my abilities go down.
If anybody wants to get together with our family, I will even host you. We will host you for a breakfast or a brunch. Let us know. We'd love to have you over, and that's the best time for Mark.
Supper time is when that's when a lot of people are available, and usually that's not possible. If it's possible, it's much easier with, like, we know a young couple. It's just 2 young people who know my issues, have been around me a lot, and it's a lot quieter that way. So it's not that we don't like other people and other people's kids. Actually, she thrives in that kind of chaos and, you know, a lot of people around, and really loves crowds. And that makes it harder for her, because I cannot deal with those things a lot. Sometimes I can. Most of the time I can't.
Another thing that goes into the social aspect of it is just getting together with other families that don't realize. I don't think anyone outside of our family really realizes Mark's triggers. Like, even my mom will hum. My mom hums all the time.
Literally 26 hours a day. She hums in her sleep, and she makes up hours to hum.
The other day at work, she works in the operating room as a nurse. And the other day at work, someone said, "What's wrong, Kay?" And she was like, "Why?" And they're like, "'Cause you're not humming." Like, that's how often she does it, is someone thought something was wrong with her because she wasn't doing it.
But the certain tone of vibration of humming, whether it's high or low, that noise causes me confusion. Sometimes it causes me pain. Sometimes it will cause me to go into a spell. But think about that. The simple act of humming. One day we had left one of the phones on vibrate, and it was sitting on a windowsill, and it was across the room. And I was incapacitated by a phone vibrating on a windowsill. So that's the auditory part of it. And then you've got someone, and we love music in this house. I mean, certainly Sarah's family, very musical. Her mom sings and plays piano and plays cello and hums pretty much constantly. And so she has to change the way she lives her life, and just standard, she's not trying to hum to entertain people. It's just kind of how she thinks. And she's a widow now, so she lives by herself. So no one else ever hears her humming unless she's with them. Like when she's at home, nobody even notices.
When she's home, she doesn't hum. That's what she tries to tell us.
And she says, I don't hum all the time. I don't hum when I'm driving in the car. So you call her when she's in the car, and she's humming while she's talking. So anyway, that kind of thing.
Mom, but Mom is willing to
people, yeah.
stop.
Yeah.
If we say, "Hey, Mom, that's too much right now,"
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Because sometimes it doesn't bother Mark as much,
Right.
and we let it go on.
Oh yeah.
But my mom understands, and she stops.
Right. Most people don't understand or see why it would be an issue.
And simple things. I hope I don't set you off right now.
That's okay.
But simple things that people do that they don't even think about. I hope these noises don't bother you. But like. That bothers Mark.
Okay.
Or when you talk to a baby, you go, those noises. But even in all of that, we were at a park multiple weeks ago, and we saw a rabbit. And Mark was calling the rabbit with those same noises.
I was doing it.
That didn't cause him a problem that day.
I was looking through this camera, holding the camera still, while creeping up towards this pair. And making those noises myself, and it didn't set me off. 2 minutes later, it may well have set me off. So it's very much, that's the paroxysmal part of this, that people say, I saw you doing this, I saw you doing that, so therefore this isn't a problem for you at times.
And so it's hard with the kids because they see Daddy do something.
And think it's okay.
And trying to explain, especially to the younger ones, this is hurting Daddy right now. I know just 10 minutes ago it was fine, because this also happens a lot. You know how dads get down on the floor and wrestle with their kids? Daddy will be doing that, and suddenly we'll have to tell everybody, no, back off, don't touch Daddy. Because Daddy's starting to go into a spell where he can't, 2-year-olds don't realize that you can't just belly flop on somebody, and when you're playing with them, you stop them as they do that.
Right.
But when Mark then goes into a spell and the 2-year-old belly flops on him, our 2-year-old's big.
We have a 40-some-odd pound, 3'3".
I think he's only like 38 pounds. Oh. But yeah, he's big.
He's a monster. He's going to be 3 in a couple of weeks, so he's an almost 3-year-old, but he's a giant. He's all boy. He likes to wrestle and jump and run and clomp and throw stuff. And
so that's what's hard, because there are certain activities, like because of my Charcot-Marie tooth, my muscular dystrophy, there are certain things I cannot do.
Right.
I'm never able to do them. I cannot jump. Doesn't matter what we do, I can't jump.
She cannot pick up her feet. Like, her feet flop. She cannot pick them up. That's how she broke her toe the other day. She cannot do it. But yours is primarily like all the time you cannot do it.
Right. So my kids understand they're not going to ask Mommy at the playground to try to do this thing.
Right.
With Daddy, sometimes he can and sometimes he can't.
Yep.
And it makes it very confusing for all of us. This isn't just for the kids.
Even for me.
Because we don't know when is the okay time to do this, when is not the okay time to do this, when it's going to set him off. And going back to how it affects our daily life, even talking to Mark about something that's challenging, whether it's bringing up, like with Josiah the other day, having so many seizures, and what are we going to do about this? How are we handling his health in the future? Yeah. Or bringing up something that was, I don't think we handled this situation right during the day. How do we do that? Can set Mark off to the point that we can't have those conversations.
So then you feel like we still have to have these conversations. We have a marriage, we have children, we're parenting, we're doing all these things that require discussing hard topics. We live in a weird political, social climate right now. We have to talk about, are we going to go to church? Are we not going to go to church? Are we going to wear masks? How do we get grocery shopping done? All of those things that are normal stresses for people affect me differently. And therefore put a lot more burden on her to try to keep the kids quiet, try to make sure we don't change the schedule, because even changes of schedule can be a problem. Find a good time to talk about difficult things. And usually, we have
not found that time yet.
We have never found that one. So we just talk about them anyway, and usually we do it at night so that if it sets me off bad enough, then I can go to sleep. So that's a lot of the social aspect of it that people don't understand. People don't think, I guess, that if you've never experienced it, it's very hard to understand. It's not that people aren't considerate. They're very considerate. It's just very hard to understand all of the things. And there's a couple of our viewers out there who understand this, who have this condition. I wouldn't even call it a disease, because there are various diseases that can cause the same condition, and they still don't know exactly what has caused mine, or my brother's, what brought that on, or our other friend, what brings it on. There's a genetic link. There's also injuries. There's people that have a genetic predisposition that doesn't get brought on until there's an injury or a stress or an environmental factor. And all of these things, we've been chasing them down for 20 years and talked to multiple specialists in multiple disciplines, and no one has any answers as to what started it or what can fix it. Everything is now at the point of, there's not this injury, there's not this injury, there's not this blood vessel constriction. We've tried this medicine and it made you worse. We've tried this medicine and it made you crazy. We've tried this medicine and it didn't help at all, so there's no point in just giving you medicine. And now we're doing another one, and just trying to find a way to do that. So that's kind of the physiological part, the social aspect of it. What are we missing that people need to understand?
It just changes our daily life in a lot of ways. Like, if we're not inviting you over, it's not necessarily because we don't want to. It's because
we invite people over a lot, even with coronavirus.
It's easier to have people over here because Mark has a safe place. So just know if you're here and Mark leaves
abruptly.
He does that during the day all the time to us. So that's not because of you or your children or whatever.
Oh, it may be because
well, no, but
if your children are loud or clucking or screaming or those kind of things.
But it happens in our family too.
Yes.
Even, like, don't take it personally.
Right. So we're trying to find a way to deaden the sounds so that even if there's a lot of, so that's the audiologist aspect, and we'll find that out August 13th. I have a testing and consultation then. We're hoping to be able to dull things down. That's why we've been talking so much about the option of noise canceling technology, and if anybody has any info about that, would love to hear more. Or if you have a set of those nice Bose, whatever they are, they're like $300 or something.
We've been borrowing a hunting pair from somebody that does help, but it doesn't.
It helps with the really loud, sudden noises, like a gunshot. That's what they're designed for, but it doesn't help with the regular chaos of a home. There's some other ones that are targeting keeping everything quiet on the outside, and no earplugs do not work because you can still hear yourself. Actually, that humming and vibrating that we talked about before, when you put in an earplug, you hear yourself more. And so even the chewing, breathing, talking of my own body coming through that is amplified because it's not getting bounced around like it normally would. And that vibration is almost as difficult for me to deal with or can bring on symptoms. So it can't just be a plugging. We've tried every earplug known to man. I have the custom ones that are form-fitted. We have the more poofy ones. We have the stick-in ones. We have the bayonet-style ones. None of them help. What we need is something that literally basically makes noise stop being understood. That's where the noise canceling comes in, because for every wave is produced that comes in, it produces an equal and opposite wave to cancel that out, so you literally don't hear it. And that's technology that's only existed in recent years. Like somebody who had my condition 100 years ago would have just lived as a a hermit, basically, that had to go away from people and have the struggles with marriage relationships. And we have a very good marriage. We have an excellent relationship, and we have totally open communication about everything.
He just might fall down after we talk about it.
And even we struggle with this. And we have very well-behaved children, and we have made this environment of our home as good as it can be, as far as we understand it. I mean, we've talked about it, putting in like those studio quality acoustic panels to deaden the noise in the house. That's an awful lot of investment and work. We're not even certain it would help. So we have a lot of ideas that we want to try and things we are pursuing, but this is where we are. So we talked about kind of how this affects the family, how it affects why we do the things we do.
We also didn't mention the physical aspect of it. In like right now we're sitting here holding hands. Right. There are days that we can't hold hands. I can't be this close to him because just my arm touching his sets him off, which is hard when you have a family with 7 kids that want to be, I mean, not that the 17-year-old is going to sit on your lap, but she occasionally wants to sit close to daddy, or the little ones want to, sit on somebody's lap, which means mommy usually has 3 or 4 people surrounding me.
So I may be able to do that at times, and there may be times when we have a king-size bed, and if you touch me at times, like even just sitting near someone or brushing up against them. One time we were talking to friends out there, out in the driveway, and I was standing there and I had on like a button-up shirt, and wind blew by and touched a certain spot in my back that I got hit by a tree, actually, and caused that kind of sensation, and all of a sudden my arms are stuck up like this and I can't stand up on my own. And I needed Sarah and Virginia to hold me in position while I attempted to walk towards the house. And, I think we have a video of it. Where I landed it's only 3 steps up onto the deck. And my head was on the top part of that step, sitting on the deck, and I could not move any further. And that lasted a while, and that's painful to sit there. And they had to struggle to get me there, but I didn't fall because I had help. All of that came from a breeze blowing across and hitting a certain nerve and causing a certain spasm that then set off that whole chain. So even touching me or standing in the wind, rain hitting me can very well often set me off.
Not all the time.
Not all the time. Sometimes I can stand out in the rain for 10 minutes and I'm totally fine. There's sometimes when a drip starting from a little fluttering rain cloud will set me off. To the point where I can't do anything. I can't function. I can't talk. I can't stand. I can't anything. But that's not all the time. And that's kind of the struggle with it. If you're totally incapacitated, it's almost easier. I say that knowing that there are people out there that are there, and I'm not saying things are easier. But it's the unpredictability, I think, is what we're trying to say, is the unpredictability of...
It's kind of like the difference between somebody who dies in an accident and somebody who has suffered a long time with cancer. Both are really hard. Right. They're just both very different. Yeah. And because it's so sporadic, it's not so sporadic, it's every day, multiple times a day. But because it's not consistent, it makes it hard for us to know what to do. Because if we went with something, if we stopped doing the things that have set him off in the past, we wouldn't do anything.
We wouldn't do anything.
Because... like sometimes the shower sets him off, sometimes the pool sets him off, sometimes a loud car sets him off, sometimes the wind sets him off. Like we would have to sit in the house not making any noise
for the rest
of our life.
Yeah, I refuse to live in a bubble.
It'd be easier in a different way if his condition was he sits in a wheelchair and we can't make noise above 100 decibels or whatever. I don't even know how the sound works. But like, if we knew that was what it was, it's kind of like someone if you know someone who's allergic to peanuts, you don't serve them peanuts. Right. And you might occasionally have trouble with knowing, does this item have peanuts or not? But if you have somebody who has a mast cell issue where they can have anaphylactic shock. We haven't actually had anaphylaxis from their mast cell stuff, but there are kids with it that today this shampoo could set them off. Mm-hmm. Tomorrow it could be the grapes. You never know. Right. Makes it really, really challenging.
while it's hard to keep your kid away from peanuts, it's really challenging when you don't know if the next thing is going to be the problem.
So we don't run away from everything. We try to pursue life as much as we can and know that we need to have the freedom to say to people, the kids can run and play, but if you see this, or if we say this, either Mark's going to go away and he won't be available to us, or we're going to have to put away this toy, or we're going to have to stop playing this game or something like that. It's really hard to tell other people's kids, hey, I know this game is fine and nobody's getting hurt and everything's good, but you're not allowed to do it right now. And that's not fair to them, really. And that's why there's a lot of families that have a hard time interacting with us now. Now, there's a lot of people that we've been inviting people to our home for many years and have come and gone and this, that. But a lot of people just aren't.
We don't do hospitality in this culture like we should.
Yeah, our culture is very unhospitable. So we are always inviting people home from church, always inviting people to come over for a meal, always inviting people to come do this with us, or let's meet somewhere and do that.
So if you don't feel comfortable around our family, it's okay. You can come ask me a question. If you don't feel comfortable around our family, please come to our house, and Mark can just go away if need be.
Yep.
Because at our house, it's easier than being at someone else's house, because otherwise he then just has to go like sit in our van or something.
But if we're at our house and you're tapping your foot on the floor, it's my house and I'm going to ask you to stop. Because I don't need to be incapacitated because you have a nervous habit. There is a difference between preferences and real problems. There are people who don't like peanuts. So, I prefer you not put peanuts in this. And there are other people that will die if you give them peanuts. This isn't quite that severe, but loving your neighbor is also understanding, hey, this person wears a hearing aid and they can't hear. So you need to talk louder, even though, they should be able to hear you. We try to bear one another's burdens. We try to see other people's needs and facilitate them, to say, oh, this person has a hard time, they can't walk upstairs, so let's not do this aspect of the hike or the walk or the whatever it is. Let's not go to this place. Let's go someplace else where they can be part of that, like they're wheelchair bound. So we just go to handicap accessible places. That's what you would do if grandma was in a wheelchair. You wouldn't be like, well, grandma, we're going to go for a hike and we're just going to leave you in the parking lot. We would facilitate that. And I think people would gladly do that in many cases, but they don't know how. And that's part of what this video is trying to explain to people who we are.
Sometimes there's not a how.
You may see me do something that totally is fine to be done, and then when someone else does it 2 minutes later, it incapacitates me. You never know what it's going to be. I mean, we know a lot of the triggers. It's mostly noise, mostly sound and vibration. A lot of them are. But it's also just strain on the brain, asking me a hard question.
Asking him a hard question, like, does he want his taco? Like, we were having tortillas and lettuce and chicken, like, on the tortilla with toppings on it last night.
Yeah.
And I know that Mark, we've explained this in another video, Mark only has the 8 teeth on the bottom. He has trouble chewing some things. So I put his separately so he could eat them separate. And then he got really confused on how am I supposed to eat this food.
I sat there for 5 minutes with a taco here, some chopped up lettuce here, and some chicken here, and I couldn't figure out how to eat it. Like, I was like, what am I supposed to do with this? I don't know how. It's something like that. That sometimes I could concoct this really neat way to eat things and put multiple flavors together and different textures and all that kind of stuff, and I could do that. And other times I'll sit there staring at a plate, completely unable to figure out how to put it there.
And as a wife, it's hard because we truly believe in the roles of men and women, and husbands being the head of the household. Mm-hmm. And so I do something trying to let him have more control of the situation, and he can't make the decision.
I can't deal with it. Yeah.
We've been doing intermittent fasting. And so I make him breakfast when he's ready for it. And so I'll say, hey, do you want eggs now or do you want them later? And that can totally throw him off for the day of me asking when he wants to eat. Just a
question, when do you want to eat? It's not a hard question. But depending on the condition of my brain, I may or may not even be able to determine that. There are times when I get halfway across the room and I can't figure out how to make my legs work. I'll be standing there, I'm still standing up. It's not that my legs stopped working, it's that they're sitting here and I have to how do I make a foot go forward? And I end up having to hold onto a wall or somebody else. Another friend with a similar condition, sometimes the only thing she can do is her husband will grab her and like will hold her hand and she'll walk backwards.
Like he's standing behind her. She's got her hands behind her.
Yeah, he's looking where he's going. She's not looking where she's going, and she has to walk backwards. Going down steps for me is almost always easier backwards than going forward. I don't know. I can't even explain it. But if it's something like that. So all of these physical symptoms, all the social part of it, all the relational aspect of it, we're just trying to be honest with people and let you know what's going on. I think we've probably covered most of that. And know that if we say, if I disappear, it's not because I don't like you. It's because something has happened that I'm not able to deal with. It may not be that you're doing anything wrong. It's not that you're doing something wrong. It's that my body can't handle it at that time. And we don't have answers.
I know you might take it. Just know that you might take it personally that he's left the room, because this has been happening for 20 years and I still take it personally every time. Right. But it's what he has to do to keep himself safe.
So we're seeing doctors, we're getting information, we're doing dietary changes, we just added supplements this week, multiple supplements that people with this condition, with other neurological issues have said helps them some. The doctor said the other day that, actually I was reading a study the other day, that the medicine I'm on now helps 10% of people achieve some level of symptom management for the movement part. Doesn't help with the memory and cognitive problems. It doesn't help with any of the sound. It doesn't help with the startle reflex.
For the rest of the video.
Okay,
so
no,
I can go deal with people. Oh, okay.
30 seconds. So know that we're trying. We're pursuing things. If you have ideas, we're welcome to listen. We're willing to listen to them. We've heard hundreds of ideas from medical experts across the country for years. We're doing what we can, but we just want to let you know where we are, and we appreciate all that you do to encourage us and to support us and to watch our videos and her videos, and just we try to live family to the glory of God in the circumstances we have, and we make mistakes along the way, and we change our patterns along the way, and we're doing what we can, but we appreciate your prayers and we appreciate your support, and we have to go tend to some kids. So thanks for watching.